Well, hello and a very warm welcome to episode 2 of BA Fringe at the BA Conference Europe. For those of you that are watching this at the BA Conference Europe, I mean, wow, what an awesome keynote we just saw with Matthew's side and some brilliant questions from Debbie and the audience as well. A lot for us to think about there. If you are at the conference and you didn't catch it, this is definitely one that you will want to go back and look at the recordings when it's available. So much insight crammed in. I was doing a mind map and I couldn't keep up with all of the really interesting ideas there. Now, as a reminder, BA Fringe is really a series of informal live streams that examine ideas around the edges of business analysis. Whether that's ideas that we've perhaps forgotten about and need to bring closer to what we do, or new perspectives and new ideas on existing techniques. We're also broadcasting around the edges of the schedule of the conference, so you'll find us in the breaks. And not only that, it's the one part of the conference that you can access even if you don't have a ticket. So if you want to give your colleagues serious FOMO, fear of missing out, send them the YouTube links because they can access these live streams, they can watch them, they can participate as well. Now, because we're live, you can submit shout-outs. So if there's something you've heard that you want to shout out, perhaps on another session, or there's something you want to celebrate or you want to say thank you to someone, you just need to put your details in your shout out at the URL, which is bafringe.live. That is bafringe.live. And we will cover as many of those as we can throughout the 6 episodes of BA Fringe that we have over the next 2 days. And I have to tell you, we've got quite a lot of them coming in already, which is fantastic. So we might not be able to cover every single one, but we will cover as many because we had quite a few during the first episode. So in this episode, we have 2 really interesting topics. We're going to be talking about collaborating with different disciplines, collaborating with different stakeholders, and we're also going to be talking about burnout. So I'm really pleased to introduce our first 2 guests. We have Jo Solecki, who's a senior BA, and Ella Turner, who's a BA. Later, they are delivering what sounds, well, I think it's a fantastic sounding title, 2 BAs, 1 PM and a rubber duck, how to mix well and deliver. And that's at 12:30, so you'll definitely want to check that one up. So Jo and Ella, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Ian.
And I have to ask, before we get started, who came up with that title? Because it's a fantastic one.
It's a bit of a mixture, to be fair. Bit of a collaboration.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I was reading your presentation abstract, and I understand you're talking about working on a project that had been attempted 3 times before with a vast mixture of different roles and stakeholders, as well as having a mixture of agile, waterfall and other methods. I mean, that sounds really tricky. How did you deal with that complexity?
I think the key thing was not to get too bogged down in the fact that it was huge, it was massive, we were doing it all virtually. It was just to kind of keep your eye on the end game, keep that in your mind, but actually just focus on what was in front of you and really focusing on that. We had daily sprints, and that was literally like, right, what do we need to do now? Because if we got too bogged down in the fact that it was huge, it was massive, we would just have panicked.
Yeah, so actually focusing on, like, I guess the nearest horizon.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'm guessing here, but I'm guessing you needed to have that medium term and longer term horizon sort of in the back of your mind, like a kind of rolling wave. So you're sort of looking out of the windscreen and planning ahead type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Daily catch-ups with the project manager. She was kind of our key, right? This is what we're focusing on now. What do we need to do, etc. So yeah, definitely helped.
Fantastic. And I suppose one other thing which struck me when I heard about the mixture of roles is I think sometimes as BAs, this is a controversial thing to say, but sometimes as BAs we can be a bit territorial. You know, we can sort of say, well, hang on, this is our little wedge of the pie, and we don't really want to let that person in there, and we don't really want to do that type of thing because that's something another discipline should do. from your experience, do you think we need to be a bit more relaxed about where the boundaries lie, or having gone through that experience, do you conversely think that the boundaries are even more important?
I'm sure Ella will agree with me here, Adrian. We really didn't care about boundaries. It was just a case of where can we use our skills? We've all got a different mixture. Who's best at doing this? And literally rolling our sleeves up and getting stuck in. So we were doing everything from comms to system testing, which aren't traditional BA roles. So yeah, there definitely was no boundaries. And actually, in some respects, that was kind of good because actually everybody just worked together really well as a team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as BAs, our key skills were our soft skills. So where we had project people who did want to get engaged with what would typically be the BA work, we often do this. We provided the framework and the structure. We kept that communication up and we allowed them to go away and do that work. But it's about reining them back in and making sure that those outputs are what we expect. So yeah, we're not territorial, but we'd always want that oversight, I think.
Definitely.
That's a really interesting aspect, actually, Ella. And as you were talking there, I was thinking maybe there's something about, yes, we can definitely empower others to do the work, to do what might be traditionally seen as the work of an analyst, if that's appropriate and if they've got the right skills. But there's an element of almost like a wrapper of quality assurance where we make sure they've got the right information, the right tools to do it. So would you say that there was an element of almost, you were sort of doing a bit of a health check of their work to make sure it was in the right direction type of thing?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
We also had a couple of people after the project ended that got in touch sort of saying, how do I get into being a BA? And so it was a really good route for people to sort of understand what the BAs do as well.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's a win-win, isn't it? Because I don't know about you both, but I find sometimes I have to explain a lot about what a BA is because people are not necessarily warming to it. So if they see it and if they understand it, then they're never going to query why they need a BA on a project, hopefully. Fantastic. So thinking about tools and techniques, if you think about tools and techniques you used in terms of collaborating, whether that's stakeholder analysis or dealing with, I'm sure, political situations that got in the way, are there any tools and techniques that on reflection you look back on and you think, yeah, I'm really glad we used this? Or conversely, like, I wish we might have used this technique?
What would you say on that one, Ella?
So I think the biggest impact for me in terms of what we decided to use is we'd planned very formal UAT at the end of the project, but then we decided to do iterative testing along the way. So as tickets became ready for UAT, we put in ad hoc sessions with the users and the assigned engineers, and creating that direct feedback loop, I think made the project work really quickly. And I think because we were dealing with such complexity, not acting as that middleman between our users and the engineers meant that users knew what they were expecting at the end of the project. And it also meant it was really smooth into business as usual because the users have been really engaged throughout the whole process. So I think iterative testing is definitely a technique that I'll use going forward as well, not just formal UAT.
Which is really interesting because I was again thinking back to our opening keynote and Matthew Side was talking about learning and that fixed mindset, and actually those short feedback cycles is interesting there as well. Jo, would you add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, the testing was invaluable because it also acted as kind of a communication and training piece as well. So we were also training people in how the new system was going to work. But we also used daily stand-ups, and they were, again, invaluable because, we are working with people globally, we're working with people in Australia. It meant we were all up to date, we were all on the same page. And as we did move through that iterative testing, we could easily pull on people because they knew exactly which point in the project we were at.
Yeah, which I suppose is something that's often overlooked, but that business readiness and the training element of business readiness, if people are involved earlier, they're really invested, I suppose, in making sure that it works because they're going to be working with it. Fantastic. So I'm going to ask you both a really tricky question now in turn, which is, without giving too much away from your presentation, if there was a key takeaway or a key point that you really want people to get from attending your presentation, what would that point be? Ella, I'll put you on the spot first.
So for me, it would be, even if you're partway through the project, if you need to take a step back and redefine your project approach, absolutely do it. Don't just stick to what you initially agreed if it's not working. I know you have to be really clear and transparent and honest in your communications around this, because it can often lead to delays. But what everybody wants is a smooth running project. And if you've got a really clear delivery approach, your outcomes are going to be better. And we did do this in the project, and we will talk about it later. But in that period, we did take the time to learn from all the different teams that were involved in the project and how they worked and what platforms they used.
Yeah.
We did end up learning a lot of new platforms from that as well.
Yeah, fantastic. So a two-way learning experience there.
Yeah.
So fantastic. And Jo, briefly, what would your biggest takeaway be?
I think my biggest takeaway would definitely never stop questioning, never stop asking, and don't be afraid to roll your sleeves up and get stuck in, even if you're not sure. As Ella just mentioned, we use so many different tools, approaches that we'd never come across, some which were very specific to engineering teams, but they were great. We literally were like, we've never done this before, let's just give it a go, let's roll our sleeves up and see if it works. And like I said, don't be afraid if it doesn't, hold your hands up and say, no, that didn't work, let's try something else. Yeah,
definitely. Which again, it just, I know I'm drawing a thread back to the keynote, but that whole idea of that growth mindset springs to mind there as well. So I'm absolutely shocked. So thank you so much both for making time to speak to us today. I'm absolutely sure people will want to get in touch with you. They'll want to go and see your session, of course. But how is best for people to connect with you? Would that be sort of LinkedIn or if people want to get in touch?
Yeah, both on LinkedIn. So yeah, feel free to connect with us there. Absolutely.
Fantastic. And of course, your session is 2 BAs, 1 PM and a rubber duck, how to mix well and deliver at 12:30. So, well, thank you both. And looking forward to your session.
Thanks a lot, Adrian.
Thanks. Bye. So I think so much we can take away from that session, really, about perhaps getting beyond our boundaries. I always remember something that a friend and colleague of mine, Nick DeVoyle, said at an event probably over a decade ago, which didn't make sense to me at the time, but has since, that like the boundaries are only there because we put them there, and and we can shift them, and it depends on the context. So some really, really interesting stuff from Jo and Ella there. So I want to read some of the shout-outs that have come in since we started broadcasting this morning. There are loads of them, so I'm going to have to go through these relatively quickly. Do keep them coming in though. As a reminder, if you want to get your shout-out read out live on BA Fringe, just go to bafringe.live. That is bafringe.live. And we have Nuno, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Nuno. Nuno says, shout out to all BAs, in particular from Portugal. So definitely if you're from Portugal, that's awesome. We have Harry Harron, I think it's Harry Harron, who's commenting on Sam's interview in the last episode. He says, wonderful, Sam, you've set up a stage with what to expect. Fantastic. Michelle, big shout out. Michelle says, a big shout out to the Close Brothers crew. I'm proud to be representing our awesome BAs at the conference. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Michelle. Paula says, shout out to BA Fringe for making this event possible for me. Well, thank you very much, Paula. Dee says, I'd like to make a shout out to all the amazing BAs at Issured, I think it is, ISSURED. So I'm guessing that's an organisation. It's one that I've not come across before. So we've got even more coming in as I speak. But we will cover some more later in the show and later in the series as well. So do keep those shout outs coming in. And as a reminder, as if you needed any incentive, you could actually be the lucky winner of a free place to the BA conference 2022. One lucky shout out winner. Whether or not your shout out is read out will be selected at random. So that moves us swiftly on to our next section. Have you ever felt burnt out? I'd almost say, like, raise your hand if you've never felt burnt out in your life. I don't think many people would raise their hands. Later on, Donovan Grant is giving a presentation called The Evolving Business Analyst, 4 Steps to Performing at your best without burning out. And I was really pleased that he agreed to give us just a little bit of a taster, a little insight into what he'll be saying. So Donovan is business analyst at the University of Arts College, London, and also a life coach. So talking about burning out, or how not to burn out, Donovan, over to you.
Have you ever got to the end of the day and said to yourself, I'm just going to do a couple more hours to get this piece of work done? Yes, I've done the same. Hi, my name is Donovan Grant, the founder of the IT Professionals Edge. There have been many a night and project and program I've worked on where I've said I need to complete this requirements document, I need to complete this process map, and I need to complete this options paper before I go home tonight. And I've worked well into the night, and you know what? I got it done, but the quality was not necessarily the best. Now, I think the role of the BA is changing. I think it's evolving to something totally different. I think it's not just about being a great analyst anymore. It's not just about understanding the business and being able to connect the business to the technicians. I think there's a third part of the trifecta, which is the energy of the BA. It's how you show up as a BA, how you are being professional as a BA. I believe that when we show up in an energized way, we come across differently, we perform better, and we're just an all-round better PA. Now, part of this evolution, I think there's three parts to it. There is number one, which is knowing your game. And it's knowing how you can perform at your best, knowing what it takes for you to genuinely show up with the best form of energy. The second part is to play your game. So that means taking effective action to ensure that every day, every week, every month going forward, you show up in the most resourceful way that you can. And the third part is to optimize and fine tune your game. So you got sustainability, you can show up again and again in the most resourceful way. Now, I'm just going to touch a little bit on the first one of those parts today, which is knowing your game. Now, knowing your game is about the fundamentals. What are the fundamentals for us to perform at our best? Now, in the really high level, it's about what we eat, how we move exercise-wise, and what our sleep is like. If we can get those three things working in the best possible way, we are going to show up in a total different way as a BA. I mean, as an example, I have gone to work many times on a few hours sleep, 4 or 5 hours sleep. And I know that when I'm sleep's off, I'm going to be off. I'm not going to be on the best part of my game. So the thing for us is, okay, what can we do to ensure that our eating, our moving, and our sleeping are in the best possible way? What we have to do, like good analysts, is to look at what we're doing now, see what's in the gap, and fill the gap with what we should be doing. Simple gap analysis. BAs do it day in and day out. But just as a takeaway for you to look at today, I want you to score yourself on those three areas. You're eating, you're moving, you're sleeping. I'm not saying you have to be on some crazy diet, but if you were to score yourself 1 to 10 on what your eating's like, a balanced diet that you eat every day, that you drink the right stuff, and everything else it takes for you to be energized as in your eating, what do you score yourself 1 to 10? Well, 1 is really low, 10 is out the shop. Same on exercise. Do you go for walks every day? Do you take breaks during the day? Do you go swimming? Do you go cycling? Whatever it is for you. It could be yoga, it could be stretching. What would you score yourself on the whole, where 1 is not very good and 10 is great? And the final part, sleep. As I say, I used to have 4 or 5 hours sleep and going to work. That is well below the level. I read the book by Matthew Walker, Why We Sleep. 7 hours is the minimum that adults should really be having. So score yourself in your sleep, where 1 is really low. If you're on a 5 hours like I was, that's like maybe a 2 or a 3. And if you're 7.5, 8, you're up in the 9s and 10s. So score yourself on those 3. And we're going to go more into this at the BA conference when we look at the Evolving Business Analysts 3 steps to perform at your best without burning out. Make sure you do those actions, and I'll speak to you soon.
Wow, I don't know about you, but just about everything Donovan said there resonated with me from his very beginning, from his opening. Like, who hasn't got to the end of the day and thought, I'll just do another couple of hours? But actually, there's a trade-off of our effectiveness, of our efficiency, if we keep doing that. And I love that idea that we need to bring energy and presence in what we do, and we need to sort of have the fuel to do that, right? It's like, you wouldn't expect a car to perform if it wasn't properly maintained and had the relevant fuel. Well, maybe as maybe as humans, we should think in a similar sort of way to sort of think about those sort of self-care type of topics. So as a reminder, Donovan's session is the Evolving Business Analyst, 4 steps to performing your best without burning out, at 12:30. If you are at the BA Conference Europe, you'll want to check that out. And do remember, one of the great things about a virtual conference is if you can't make it live because you've got a schedule clash, you can catch up with the recording at a later date. So do be sure to watch Donovan's session either live or at a later date. Whilst you're sort of browsing around in the conference venue, the virtual conference venue, also be sure to click the little exhibits button. The sponsors are a really important part of the conference ecosystem, and as I said in the last episode, there's free stuff in there, and there are even more competitions. So go there for the free stuff, go there for the competitions, but do have some good conversations with the sponsors there, and check out the networking as well. I don't know if you've tried the speed networking yet, but that's really fun, right? You can get paired up with someone for 3 minutes and have a bit of a chat. So experiment, have that growth mindset that Matthew Side was talking about in the opening keynote. Now we have shout-outs coming in thick and fast, which always pleases me. I'm just going to I've got time for about 4 now. We will cover as many as we can in the next episode as well. So Paula says a shout out to Dave Beckham on embracing change in the midst of difficult challenges, new opportunities arise. So a big shout out there to David Beckham. We have Mahamran just says cognitive diversity, which I think is in reference, of course, to our opening keynote. So a really, really important topic there as well. Christina says, well done to Rebecca Richmond-Smith, new BA of the Year. Congratulations, Rebecca is an amazing advocate for the BA role. I'd absolutely underpin and echo that. And I would also add a massive congratulations to anyone who got all of the finalists. It is a huge accolade to get to that final stage. So a massive congratulations to Rebecca, but of course a massive congratulations to everyone who got to the final. And Lauren also says, massive shout out to Rebecca for winning BA of the Year. Have had the pleasure of having Rebecca volunteering at the YBA over the last year. Amazing, passionate BA. This is another good opportunity to do a quick plug for the YBA group, Young Business Analysts. If you are a young business analyst, do check them out on LinkedIn. It's a great networking opportunity to meet your fellow peers. So I think we've got time for just one more, looking at the clock. We have Mahamran, who says, Matthew's session was so great and would be helpful for everyone. Also makes us think what type of mindset we should have. So again, going back to that fantastic opening keynote. So do feel free to get your shout outs in. We've literally got them coming in as quickly as I can read them out at the moment, so I must stop there. Well, thank you for tuning in. Massive thank you to the guests on this session. Do remember, BA Fringe is the one part of the conference which is available on YouTube outside of the conference if you want to give any of your colleagues that fear of missing out, that FOMO feeling. The next episode is at 1:30, so it's during the lunch break. We're going to be talking about empowerment and digitalization. So do tune in. Look forward to seeing you there. Keep your shout outs coming in. Enjoy the rest of the conference and see you soon. Bye for now.